Other EV brands are making huge inroads across Asia, apart from Tesla, but which ones and how seriously are they? And should we be concerned? We're going to discuss all that and so much more. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So I am joined once again by Daren, who I met at the X Takeover in Austria. What a weekend we had. It was a great bit of fun. And if you want to see him on my channel, he was the moderator of the panel with me and K10 and Alexandra. It went really well. The whole weekend went really well. Thank you for coming back. And by the way, you can check Daren out on his YouTube channel. He does great work over there and as well on X. So who are the biggest EV players in the markets? We can start whichever market you want. We have a good idea of what's going on in China. We look at that a bit. But outside of China, which are the big brands? I assume they're all Chinese.
Well, outside of China, BYD is everywhere in most Asian markets. You've got Hyundai doing a decent job. I mean, Hyundai makes quality cars, but they don't sell the volume that they hope to sell outside of South Korea. I'd argue that you see more Hyundais in the US than in many markets in Asia. I'm talking about EV specifically. Hyundai has a lot of ICE and hybrid cars that are on our roads. Then you have still the German brands. BMW has been doing a better job than most of the German brands driving EV adoption. You hardly, if at all, see any Volkswagen in Asia, especially outside of China. Mercedes, they're trying to transition to EVs, but the price point's like double, almost 2.5 times that of a comparable Tesla. That's been a challenge. And beyond that, we know that NIO, Zeekr are trying to expand to more markets. Geely is trying to expand to more markets across Asia. And in the context of Asia, especially for Chinese brands, Southeast Asia is the friendliest territory globally for them. They are facing tariffs in the US and Europe. South Korea and Japan has their own history with China. Australia, New Zealand would have a preference towards Western brands, if at all possible. Southeast Asia is a very unique mix where it's almost half West, half East. And so like here in Singapore, for instance, you get an equal mix of CNN, Fox, but you also get CCTV, all the Chinese news media as well. So it's a place where both worlds come together. And because of that, Chinese brands they have the mindset that we must win in Southeast Asia, if at all. And Thailand being the largest car market in Southeast Asia has been a foothold for a brand like BYD to expand, to launch and open their factory, and more will come.
So BYD, of course, famously uses almost exclusively LFP batteries, which are great for durability and keeping costs down. The factory in Thailand, what kind of production volume are we looking at?
They claim that they can produce up to 150,000 vehicles per year. Now that's nowhere near a gigafactory capacity. That's probably a fifth of what a gigafactory would produce. But it's a strong signal. And when you produce a local factory, you don't have to pay a lot of the import tariffs, which allows them to continue to produce and sell cars more affordably. Or if they don't pass any of the price savings to consumers, at least generate profitability. Because we know that outside of Tesla, it's very hard to find any other car manufacturer producing EVs profitably if you exclude government subsidies.
That is absolutely true. And that's the whole point of localization is if you're making the car there, it's not a foreign car, it is a local car. We see a lot of sentiment, especially in the comments on some videos saying, well, they need to crack down on localization to prevent other companies from bringing their cars here. But that's the whole point of these rules is we want them to bring their factories here. We want them to bring their production, create jobs in the places where you're selling them, where people are going to be buying them. It's a good deal. So BYD, of course, is growing. They are growing as quickly as they possibly can. Who else is growing? Who else is showing any kind of serious numbers outside of China? Are we seeing a lot of Zeekr? Are we seeing a lot of NIO and Li?
No, Zeekr, NIO, and Li, they are at a scale like Rivian right now.
Oh,
They
no.
make great products, but they're not at the volume that they need to be. And they have the ambitions to get to the volume, but they're more at the Model S stage right now. So
Wow.
outside of
Okay.
BYD, there isn't the same volume. And you look at car registrations across Asia Pacific, it's typically BYD, Tesla. Now, in many markets, BYD is selling more EVs than Tesla in Asia. That's also because BYD has a lower price point. So 88, when Tesla thinks about more affordable vehicles, robotaxi with or without driver steering wheels, or when they increase the value of cars with better autonomy, FSD beta rollout, at least first with left-hand drive markets for supervised, that will help. But for now, BYD typically sells more volume of EVs than Tesla in many Asian markets. And after BYD, you get Tesla, and after Tesla, it's a mixed bag depending on market. Obviously, if you're in South Korea, you get Hyundai. And in mainland China, you'll get Geely and many of the other local brands. In Japan, there's a huge cliff. Like there's very other good EV options to consider. In Southeast Asia, there's the legacy of BMW, Mercedes, where they had a strong install base, but BMW and Mercedes are overall losing market share by 10, 20% per year. And most of the EV buyers are existing ICE car owners. So they've done a good job transitioning the ICE car owners to EVs. Because like in Singapore, the government's banning sale of pure new ICE cars by 2030. You must buy an EV, which is great. So I see a
2030.
lot, 2030. So I see a lot more BMW EVs on the road. But if you ask those owners, what was your previous car? It's typically an ICE BMW. It's not
Wow.
a net new brand entrant.
Wow.
And that's not much more beyond that. VinFast is trying, but you don't really see VinFast in the rest of Asia. They're more focused on US and Vietnam and potentially Europe.
That's interesting. That's a perspective I hadn't seen before. We don't always get the kind of news that that you see firsthand. So, what are buyers looking? So, obviously, in places like Singapore, with a looming, imminent internal combustion engine ban, they're looking
Yeah.
for EVs. Period. But beyond that, what are they looking for? Is price the number one factor? What are the factors that help them drive their buying decisions?
By and large, people are just looking for an affordable car, a good enough car. And I think by next year in Asia, we're hitting this inflection point where it's like TV. We went from LCD to OLED TV. In the early adopters were specifically looking for OLED TV for the richer blacks, the better colors. In the past few years, early adopters were looking for EVs for better torque, better performance, and all of that. I think by next year, people just want a good car, and a good car just happens to be an EV because most R&D, most innovation is on EV platform for most manufacturers. And pricing being where it is, like in Singapore right now, the price of a Tesla Model 3 is lower than the price of Toyota Camry. Now, we have the world's most expensive cars by far, by design, by government taxation. So a Tesla Model 3 costs 190,000 Sing dollars, and a Toyota Camry costs almost 200,000 Singapore dollars. And that's for a hybrid, it's not an EV. So the purchase price is already lower in ICE cars. We all know that the cost of upkeep and fuel is a lot less than ICE car, typically a third. The last barrier or hurdle is range. And we've seen markets like Malaysia being an EV desert 2 years ago, where you had to plan your trip, to now today, you probably can't drive more than 20 minutes without finding an EV charger across the major highways. So the
All
environment is set for very rapid EV adoption. Singapore has went from 3% EV adoption about 4 years ago to now 35% this year. And Singapore will be at 50% EV adoption next year.
and 100% in 2030.
There's a nuance there. Like the government still allows sales of pure new hybrids, just not pure ICE cars.
Oh, ah,
However,
well,
it wouldn't make sense to buy a hybrid when practically everyone's buying an EV.
well, and especially the number of gas stations will begin to diminish. They will stop building new ones and they will start phasing them out as they reach the end of life. It's going to happen.
What I noticed about gas stations in Asia is they are being repurposed. So they're being repurposed. So when you think of, let's say, a gas station having a 6-stall capacity, it's gone from 6 stalls of ICE to maybe 3 stalls of ICE, 3 stalls of EV, or maybe even $6 of EV. So they're being repurposed where in the future there'll be pure EV, and that depends on the country's EV adoption, because these gas stations are sitting on very, very valuable real estate. They are at important points where cars need to refuel, recharge, drivers need to rest. And I'm seeing a lot of them transitioning to EV stations. So you see all the major oil and gas players, people who own the petrol stations like Petronas in Malaysia, like PTT in Thailand, they have valuable real estate and they're building chargers on it because no one else has that real estate. Tesla can't build chargers on those locations because it's valuable prime real estate. And that allows them to capture the charging market.
All amazing stuff. So, guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? What questions should I have asked? Put them in the comments below, because maybe we'll get answers there. Maybe we'll get answers on the next one. I have it on good authority that Daren Jung will be coming back for one more video after this one in the matter of mere days, while we are both wearing the same shirts that we're wearing right now. It's crazy how that works. It's almost like time is non-linear, but it is, I promise. So what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it. Check out Daren over on his channel on YouTube or on X. I will leave both links in the description. And everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.